how come the hardest goodbyes are the ones that never actually happen? The ones where there is no final conversation, no door closing with enough weight to feel like an ending, no moment you can point to later and say, that was it, that was when it changed. Just a gradual absence that you keep making excuses for until one day the silence is so loud you can't pretend anymore that is temporary. You just left, and the toughest part wasn't that you were gone. It was that you left without giving me anything to hold on to. Not a reason or a word, not even the dignity of a proper ending. Just the space where you used to be, and me standing in it, still warm from everything we were. There is a specific kind of grief that the world doesn't have a clean name for. The grief of losing someone who is still alive somewhere, breathing the same air, moving through the same world, just no longer moving through yours. It sits differently than other losses. It doesn't come with the rituals, the flowers, the people showing up at your door with food and sad eyes, and the quiet permission to fall apart. It just comes with a phone you keep checking, and a side of the bed that feels like an accusation, and 100 small moments throughout the day where you turn to say something to someone who is no longer there to hear it. The stars look different after you left. That sounds like the kind of thing people say, the poetic shorthand for sadness. But I mean it more literally than that. The sky was the same sky. The night was the same night. But something had shifted in the way I stood underneath it, like the whole world had been quietly rearranged while I was busy loving you. And now that you were gone, I was left navigating by landmarks that no longer meant the same things they used to. And time, everyone assured me, would fix it. Time heals, they said, like it was a simple equation. Enough days stacked on top of each other, and eventually the weight of it lifts. But time is strange when you're grieving someone you haven't lost to death, only to distance and silence and whatever it was that made you decide I wasn't worth a goodbye. Time kept moving, and I kept being asked to move with it. And most days, I could manage the performance of that. I went to the places I was supposed to go. I said the things that were expected. I smiled when smiling was required. But underneath all of it, something in me stayed exactly where you left it. Caught between the love that didn't go anywhere just because you did, and the pain of understanding that love, on its own, was never going to be enough to bring you back. That is its own kind of purgatory. To still feel everything while being expected to act like you feel nothing. To carry someone in your chest like they never left, while watching the world insist that moving on is the same thing as healing. But here is what I've had to learn, slowly and without much grace, in the months that followed the silence you left behind. Keeping someone in your heart is not the same as being trapped by them. There is a version of holding on that is about refusing to let go, white-knuckling the memory because letting it soften feels like betrayal. Like if you stop hurting, then maybe it meant less than you thought. And then there is another version, quieter and harder to arrive at, where you hold someone gently instead of desperately, where you let what you had take up its rightful space without letting the loss of it consume every space you have left. You are allowed to love someone and grieve them at the same time. You are allowed to carry them with you without being buried under the weight of their absence. Love doesn't have to end just because they did. It just has to change shape. you walked away without a goodbye, and I won't pretend that doesn't still live somewhere tender inside me, because it does. But I've stopped waiting at the door you closed. I've stopped rehearsing the conversation we never got to have. I've stopped measuring the sky by the light you took when you left, because I've slowly, stubbornly started finding my own. You are gone from my life, but you are not gone from who I am. You shaped me in ways I am still discovering, left fingerprints on parts of me I haven't even found yet. And maybe that is the only goodbye that ever really mattered. Not the one you didn't give me, but the one I'm finally giving myself. The stars look different now, but they still shine. And so, slowly, do I.